I'm clearly not a 90s kid. I wasn't born around that time. Since I was born somewhere around the 2010s, being like December 6, 2009 specifically, I'm almost a young adult. Even so, I still have my fair share of watching movies on the VHS tapes. Those classic Disney commercials, the aesthetic style of watching any tape. Watching movies or anything on those small square VHS TVs can really take a person down memory lane, especially in the early Gen Z or a late millennial. Now, what if you put something spooky on top of that aesthetic effect? Analog horror shouldn't be explained at this point. You've probably seen at least one piece of analog horror in these past couple of years, from the Walton Files or the Mandela catalog, but if you're not aware, analog horror is this new recent genre of horror where you take that aesthetic feeling and effect of VHS tapes and form it into some kind of lost footage or corrupted tape, basically pure terror and a nostalgic feeling. Some other examples, which some analog horror can be original, like Greylock or Monument Mythos, or based off of existing media like South Park analog horror, or even straight up Danny's World analog horror. It was a very unique concept and genre that really spat out some good content from decent creators. However, recently it's been sort of in a decline lately with mid after mid. Well, Red Riding Hood. However, there's just one analog horror series, one based off of an already existing well-known franchise, which you might have heard of, coming out around 2019, that being is Squimpus McGr's FNAF VHS. Squimpus' FNAF VHS really had a semi-impact on FNAF today, with many creators creating their own FNAF VHS tapes, and it's somewhat fit for a franchise like FNAF. We all know about the dark topics in FNAF's lore, from the children getting oofed by William Afton, from the Springlock incident. Analog horror in FNAF really was meant to be some kind of peanut butter and jelly. However, there was this small analog horror creator at the time that got some of his popularity from popular YouTubers reacting to his content like CoreyX Kenshin and 8-Bit Ryan with his own analog horror series and a remake of Squimpus McGr's FNAF VHS tapes. And you maybe know this person as Battington, known for his own analog horror series, obviously inspired by FNAF, but you may have seen his remakes of Squimpus' FNAF VHS tapes. I even watched them myself, and I can't even lie, it's like 100 times better than Squimpus' like original one. It's one of those scenarios where the remake is just better than the original, so I might as well make this video of me explaining why I believe how Battington was able to put the sugar, spice, and everything nice into Squimpus' FNAF VHS tapes to make them way more better and more eerie and unsettling, like dear God. Especially what Squimpus has done recently. We don't really talk about that. I wouldn't even mind of Battington's remake of the FNAF VHS tapes replacing the original as a whole. So let me explain why. With Squimpus' original FNAF tapes, they would range from at least 1 to 2 minutes. But with Battington, his remakes like Sound Response Checked and Pyro Cove Pre-Show would range from 3 or more minutes, with the non-existent video at almost 10 whole minutes. Meanwhile, the original is pretty much half of that. Now, you might be wondering, Bucky, why is it longer? What can he be possibly adding? That's a good thing though, Jimmy. So let me quickly summarize all these tapes and what's different between Battington's and Squimpus's. Now, first with the Fazbear Entertainment Manual video, nothing's really different with Battington's remake except for the slight jingle in the middle of the video and the weird Freddy that stares at you at the end of the video. So we'll move on to the Bonnie movement testing video. Now in the original, it was simple. It was testing Bonnie's movements like his legs and arms. Then something goes wrong, he goes into darkness, you turn around, and after a few seconds, Bonnie jump scares you. And at the end, it shows the puppet at a gift box with this disturbing kind of scream. The puppet opens the gift with Golden Freddy lunging at the camera. Now, what's different about Battington's remake is that in the start, it shows camera footage of someone recording a live performance of the animatronics, with Bonnie clearly not looking too good. Looks like it was off that Coca-Cola, which most likely leads to the movement testing of Bonnie. Anyways, we then cut to Freddy introducing himself and his assistant help us with Bonnie's movement testing, until it just cuts him off, and the door in the back opens. Totally nothing suspicious. We're then in some sort of warehouse with a computer of the different parts of Bonnie we have to test, with Freddy insisting this time, unlike in the original. Now, once we get to the ears, Freddy glitches out and stops talking, with Bonnie, like in the original, just completely stopping. And after trying the eyes, his eyes open, which for some reason is really irritating to me, not gonna lie. The bulb burns out. We then flash a few times until Bonnie starts coming at us, most likely killing us in the original. And that was the remake. The part of the puppet in this remake is actually a YouTube short instead of it being in the video. And it's clearly just the same in the original, but with Battington's design. So moving on with the sound response check. It starts off with some little girl in the bathroom, with Chica at the doorway. The girl then hides in the stall, with Chica talking about her as a baby bird and taking her home with her. I don't know, man. And since the little girl's telling Chica that she's getting scared, Chica repeatedly laughs, opens the stall, and most likely oops the little girl, ending with some kind of something is wrong message. A detail I really love about this beginning is that if you pause at the right time when Chica opens the stall, you can see the bunny ears of most likely the spring-locked bunny animatronic, which we clearly know from FNAF lore that William oofed the kids in that suit. So maybe he programmed the animatronics like Chica to oof the kids that was soon be in that suit, like Susie and Chica. Maybe, like, again, just a really small but cool detail that wouldn't really be seen in the original. I mean, after all, half the original tapes just took place in just like dark rooms and stuff. Anyways, it cuts to someone talking to most likely the person doing the sound response check, just telling him to listen to the sound response manual, pretty much. And that's when we officially come to the actual sound response check, which obviously plays the sounds from the original, but with Chica looking at the direction, with some kind of like kid appearing 2 times, most likely being Susie. After about 4 times, Chica just looks straight at the camera, like it did something. What the fuck are you staring? After that, the final sound response plays, and it's the music we heard from the original, but this time, instead of showing Chica the entire time, while text appears in the original, it shows the whole process of William leading Susie to a back room, which is making me confused on what was happening with William and Chica in the bathroom. That girl, was that Susie, or was that another girl? Maybe it took place after Susie was led to the back room and maybe escaped. I don't know. Maybe make theories and like map hat in the comments below. But pretty much it's the same text from the original, and after that it takes a few seconds until Chica's mask slides off, showing Susie in the suit, which is way more damn dark than her just appearing behind Chica like in the original. Especially when after this it shows her inside the suit, but in the original it just shows the dead bird where Susie was talking about how she was like some dead bird that couldn't breathe, and the tape ends. Again, way more extra things to see than the original, mainly the beginning and showing the whole process of Susie being led by William. The original sound response check was pretty much Chica looking left and right halfway through, looking at the camera, the music plays, and mainly the rest of the video she just keeps staring at the camera while the text appears on the screen. Pretty much it. Meanwhile, Battington, as we already saw, adds a little more spice into the video, and especially make it more eerie than the original, to make it more engaging with the original, or than the original. Yeah, whatever. Now with Pirate Cove pre-show, it's clearly the most different out of any of these. The second place going to non-existent video. So with the original Pirate Cove pre-show, it would just show Foxy's video of some show in 3 minutes. And each time it ends, one of the kids disappear again, implying that William snapped these kids out of existence like Thanos with Infinity War. After the last child, William appears, saying something like,
"What's the matter, Foxy? I thought you wanted an audience."
And it just repeats go, go, go with the animatronics looking like they just tried the new Coca-Cola. Now, this is supposed to be that one Foxy minigame in FNAF 2 formed into this scary VHS tape, may I add real quick. But then after that, it shows Foxy in a dark room seeing a floating Fredbear, if you catch my drift, tweaking out, and then coming down, ending the tape. Now, here's what Battington, the smart son of a bitch, did with this. Not only did he obviously did the Foxy bit with the 3 minutes, but now 10 minutes since it's more longer, and sorry, and also that classic pirate music. But we also get to see Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica just goofing around or something, with Chica trying to practice her singing voice.
Oh, and I've got to prep my singing voice. La 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 la.
And Bonnie being a moron and just completely slips while mopping the stage. Dumbass. One of the main differences is that every time the bit ends, which happens mainly 4 or 5 times, we see a small part of Foxy like in the Pirate Cove, and then one of the kids go missing in this kind of playroom. Like the first time, we see someone recording Foxy's Cove, cutting to him staring at the camera when the go 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 text. And then cuts to the kids in the room, which so far none of the kids are gone until later. That is. The next time the Pirate Cove bit happens again, nothing pretty much happens. The music is out the window now, and Foxy just gets cut off a little bit at the end. So moving on, we now see Foxy staring down the camera at his cove, opening the curtain up a little, and then we see footage of Foxy running down a hallway again with the go 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 text. And wait, what's this? What? One of the kids is missing. Well, that can't be good. The whole pre-show bit plays again, but this time, Bonnie's tired. Nothing else solely. And at the end, Foxy can't even finish his lap before getting teleported away. Where the hell did he go? Does he have teleportation power? Now, nothing else happens after this one. As a matter of fact, nothing else happens like after the last 3 times. Just immediately cuts to another kid going missing. So moving on, we cut back again to the pre-show bit with it sounding more bass boosted. And Freddy is also looking a little sleepy today. And I'm guessing Chica is just gonna do her classic annoying singing voice again. Wow, thanks, you just brought back my tinnitus, I guess. After that, along with Freddy and Bonnie's delectable conversation, Foxy can't even finish his sentence now before getting cut off. Again, another kid goes missing, and this time, the pre-show bit probably has the greatest quality so far. And now the entire animatronic crew are having some deep debates right now. So let's go back to Foxy and...
Viewing of this tape is prohibited. Discard it immediately. Viewing of this tape is prohibited. Discard it immediately. Viewing of this tape is prohibited. Discard it immediately. Viewing of
I don't know what that split-second frame is about, but now cutting back to the empty room now with William in the back, and he just says what he said in the original, and flashbangs us with dead children that I'm not gonna risk getting punished by YouTube by getting demonetization like up my hiney for showing this. So, anyways, it then cuts to Foxy in the hallway, opening the door to show again the floating Fredbear again, crashing out and then settling down, ending the tape. Dear God, that was a lot to give. You could clearly tell the most differences in this one out of all the tapes today. Starting off with just the whole video in general. It's something new and fresh that wasn't from the original. The whole added on like pre-show with Foxy, but this time with the full crew, and then them just being sleepy later on in the tape. The first 2 times after that pre-show bit ends with the whole go go go. Just this whole remake made by Battington adds an extra layer to the original by Squimpus that really tells it in a different and more better way and can definitely be worth a watch. And finally, we have non-existent video. I would real quick like to add that some of the other FNAF VHS tapes Battington made, like the Horror Attraction and the Edward Morris tape, are completely original tapes by Battington and aren't anything remade from Squimpus, from my knowledge, so I won't include them. Anyways, non-existent video. Starting off with the original, it immediately cuts to stuff like Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, and explaining what's a Springlock suit. We then see Fredbear with a bloody mouth, obviously from the Bite of 87! I mean, Bite of 83. Then we see the original FNAF 1 office, see Golden Freddy, get jump scare, then apparently the tapes we've been seeing were in their heads, like Freddy's tape with a manual, Bonnie's with the movement, Chica's sound response, and Foxy's pre-show thingamajiggy. And that we found the 5th tape being the non-existent video. Jesus Christ, I'm talking so much that, you know, my throat is almost giving up on me with my voice. There's, then some conversation with a puppet, being Emily from the original lore, and Michael Afton, most likely, since the whole brother dying, basically. And it basically just shows William Afton getting spring locked, and in short just tells Michael that he needs to burn down Fazbear Fries with William inside to kill him and stop this madness. They clearly don't know he
always come.
And it just ends there with Fredbear and Spring Bonnie pretty much saying goodbye to their friend. Now with Battington's remake, instead of immediately cutting to Fredbear's bloody mouth, we actually get some mascot costume assembly training tape where it pretty much tells you how to safely put on one of those 2 suits. Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. It glitches to a live performance in Fredbear's POV, seeing the purple guy in front of his eyes. We then see this animatronic thing crawling around. Now this is either William Afton in the suit without the costume fabric of the suit, or that it might just be some random person who knows. I mean, later on after William gets spring locked, the person with the camera is in the same hallway as before again. Anyways, again, maybe make theories in the comments. I'm not up for that kind of stuff. Anyways, it just shows you how to, again, safely put on the suit without immediately spring locking yourself in the suit. Yeah, totally nothing wrong with this picture. After all this nonsense, it then cuts to the stuff we seen in the original. The difference being that it talks about Fredbear's jaw upgrade instead of explaining what a spring lock suit. I mean, obviously they did though that whole damn assembly tape. They then show this kid, which is most likely Evan Afton, aka the crying child, who was the victim of the Fight 83. Then cutting the Fredbear and his bloody mouth getting closer to the camera, saying "I bit someone" like multiple times. Then the same thing happens from the original. We found the fifth. We plead the fifth or whatever. Blah blah blah. Papa talks to Michael. Blah blah blah. William gets brain locked. Yada yada yada. Like the last half of this remake is pretty much the same. So we'll just now officially now talk about the elephant in the room. Not the elephant. I'm talking about like the FNAF tapes. Notice the big differences between Squimpus's FNAF VHS tapes and Battington's remakes of them. Of course you did. They're clearly noticeable. I mentioned this before, but what Battington does to make his remakes of Squimpus's FNAF tapes 10 times better than the original is that he adds on to these tapes, adds extra stuff to make it a different kind of experience, like the beginning of the Sound Spawn Check remake to like the entirety of the Pirate Cove pre-show remake. Battington adds like from a little bit to a lot to, like more to these tapes. That basically changes the tapes to something that we haven't seen in the origins before. And I can't even lie, it has more effort than the original. It's not just 1 to 2 minutes. Battington actually like took the time to add the new content that will make sense with the context of the video and make it worth at least 5 to 10 minutes for each of the tape remakes. So what do you need to know about Battington and his remakes of Squimpus's FNAF tapes? Is that Battington is adding on to the tapes, remaking it in his own style, and overall just making this making this terrifying but cool experience. From details you would have to notice on your second watch, to just watching what Battington could bring to the table differently with the videos. Another thing about the FNAF, or the tape remakes, are that they just feel more unsettling than Squimpus's original tapes. Like, Battington's remakes slightly feel more like lost footage than Squimpus's actual tapes. There's something weird and creepy about Battington's content he's able to pull off to make it spooky and eerie. Especially with Harmony Horror. I don't know. It's just something Battington is able to do well with analog horror. And that's why he took the first 5 McGr's FNAF VHS tapes, added on to them, make it in his own style, and boom, you got something more better than the original. Especially with the controversy and drama Squimpus was in a few years ago, I would definitely call Battington's remakes of the FNAF tapes the replacement of the original. After all, it is better in almost every way. Same thing. Battington was able to make something new and add something unique to the original tapes, especially with some of the uncanny imagery Battington could already make. Not only would I make the remakes the new replacement of Squimpus's FNAF tapes, but I would also say that Battington deserves all the support and fame he gets. He's in general a very goated analog horror creator, and with his own amazing VHS horror series, Harmony Horror, and his remakes of Squimpus's FNAF tapes. Battington, if you're possibly watching this, keep doing what you're doing. Who knows, maybe you could even create another analog horror that can just be more peak coming from you. We'll just have to wait and see. Anyways, that's just about it for me today. Puggy Boozle YT is signing off right now, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
I see. The people would also like to know if you would ever consider making more remakes from the Squid.
No! We do not speak of that name. The answer is no. There ain't enough booty in the 7 seas to get us to write those scripts. I'm an actor with Sanders, after all.